Sam Berkson, I live in Clapton. Since 2008. Yeah, I mean, it's changed in a really visible way. There's been arrival of quite a lot of new people. You know, I guess I'm one of those new people. But in terms of like a lot of, at quite an alarming rate, quite a lot of shops have closed down, pubs have closed down, retail businesses have changed really. There's a kind of new wave of cafes and a certain type of services provided for a community that is both new to the area and a new kind of service.
And do you think that this is good for Clapton, or do you think it's negative?
I don't think it's as simple as it being good or bad. I think not everything new is good or bad, but it is dangerous. There's a potential for it to not go well, because if the people coming in aren't willing to engage with what's already there, then they can kind of stamp all over things that have been flourishing before. And that, I think, is a worry. And if on the back of that, when they bring in these kind of cafes and restaurants that are quite pricey and therefore a little bit exclusive, and then that brings in a kind of corporate takeover after that, then you'll see Hackney lose its distinctive nature. I guess Clapton has got less than some other parts of Hackney, it seems to me. But all across Hackney there's loads of stuff going on. There's a lot of people individually, it seems to me, putting on events in all kinds of arts. No, I don't think so. I think some places are a little bit exclusive, but that it's hard. There's partly it's hard to avoid that because people like different things. You know, different groups and ages and communities are going to like different things. So people unite on interests, which may also be other kind of divisions that go with that. But in some ways, there are some things I think which are sort of, especially new stuff that's happening now, that doesn't seem that interested in engaging with what's there. It's almost seems to me, either consciously or not, deliberately excluding people.
Why do you think that idea might be pushed?
I think there's a sort of, I think from the people who are involved in it on an individual level, there may be a sort of subconscious fear, a little bit of xenophobia, a little bit of a fear of like what they can't access themselves, and a feeling, although there's like that fear kind of, the other side of it is a sort of superiority, that what they're doing is actually better. Like their taste in food and their taste in cafes is better than what's going on, and they wouldn't even dream of going to those other places. Like those, I think they sort of unsee. I think there's people here who unsee the other side. Like they don't. It's like, oh, there's cafes and pubs, and they wouldn't even. But there's certain cafes and pubs they wouldn't even consider as part of that group, and they've already made that division, which is basically a class and a race division. So I think that happens on an individual level, and I think on a council level, again, maybe subconsciously or not, there's a sense that there's a certain community that's wealthier, a certain type of young, artistic, creative, that is easier and more comfortable to deal with, and because they're richer, they pay better council tax, and kind of changing the nature of the area may be better in the end for on a kind of council level, just simply because it brings a richer group in and therefore more money in the council coffers.
You mentioned, about a fear of losing Hackney's distinctive nature.
Yeah, I think you can see it in lots of places around Britain at the moment, and it's almost like there's actually not that many places that have a distinctive culture. I think people don't realise how lucky we are in Hackney. Like I did, like I said, when you asked me for things going on, I think there's a lot going on, like much more than is normal in the UK, and we can take that for granted a little bit. And so, but then it's like you kind of sell that idea. People market that as a way of getting people in. Like, come to Hackney, it's a creative, artistic place. But the people who are coming in aren't interested in engaging in that creativity and art. Then, and with the rents going up, then a lot of those places fold and collapse and change, and you get and then it isn't there anymore. And actually, you've lost its foundation, and the creativity that was supposedly the drawing point of it will die out, and Hackney just becomes like another
clone.
Yeah, another clone. Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's your worst case scenario. It could just explode a little bit again. You know, it could explode again, and it's like.
Do you mean explode metaphorically or
almost quite literally? When you start building divisions between people.
Yeah.
When a community has stark wealth divisions, and class and race, then you get problems. If people feel like they're together, pretty much, you know, then the communities are much safer. If there's a sort of, if there's a kind of resentment rather than just a bewilderment. Like, people, I think some people like look at Hackney and go, like, just, kids I've worked with in Hackney, and they'll be like, there's these people who, they also unsee. There's people who sit in cafes tapping away on laptops, generally white people, generally quite young, sipping expensive coffee, and they're just a bit bewildered by it. It's not their world, it's nothing to do with them, and it's not something they really understand. But if that kind of bewilderment changes into resentment, then you've got problems. I think they have to look at the thing they've got control over. It seems to me, and I don't know council work very well, is rents. And if you look at what they did with Centreprice, when they could have supported that and continued to support its existence, or if you look at Open the Gate, that could have continued. That is an obligation of the council to make sure these things still exist, because they're deep rooted, they come from the community, and they serve even if they serve a section of the community. That's what diversity is about.
Yeah.
You know, even if I go, I did go to Centreprice and I bought books there, but as a white person, it wasn't specifically aimed at me. That's fine, right? Because there's a group of people who live in this area. There is like 40% black, borough of Hackney, and there's a black bookshop run for black people, by black people. That's what should be there. And the council needs to support that by making sure that the rents are low enough for them. Instead, if you look at what replaced those two examples, I don't know the backstory of Open the Gate and what happened to it, but if you look at what replaced it, you've got Birthdays, which is that new Dalston thing, which isn't even serving the community, because mainly it seems to me it's people who come out from the outside on the weekends to party, mainly young and white again, and generally middle class, and then you look at that's replaced a cultural centre, right? And you look at what replaced Open the Gate, Hackney Pirates, which is a certain model of charity, which is a different kind of model, because it's not a community serving itself, it's outsiders giving to a community. That can be changed by the way in which the council supports in terms of the affordability. I think also in terms of promotion, the council could do more. I think, I'm not saying I'm in a hard case in terms of, I run a poetry night once a month called Hammer and Tongue, which we always try and keep cheap. We try and keep it, the people with books always a diverse lineup. We always try and keep it as diverse as possible in terms of everything we do, and welcoming and open. But it's not that easy for me to get any promotion with that. I just feel like that whoever runs those Hackney websites doesn't seem to ever get into that free Hackney paper or that the council run. I think they could do more on the art services there. A bit more like help out with posting, make a place where distribute central distributions and
things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things like the libraries are good. If you give the library a poster, they post it all the way around all the libraries. That's useful, isn't it? Spreading information. it's just a great way of linking people up.
So that community kind of feeling.
Yeah. I mean, also it does offer. So, and when it's so much different when you have a real space to meet in. You know, there's a lot said about social media, but I don't think it is any substitute for actually being in the same place and meeting each other. You know, we try and run nights that involve everyone, that aren't just, you know, fed at people. Like, people are taking part in the audiences of our events, even if they don't read poems, they're taking part in some way because they're judging it, they're cheering it, their opinions being asked. You know, so we want, it means people meet each other and you break down boundaries as a result of it. In terms of, and I think it's a lot about breaking down boundaries as well, because also what art does is that you express who you are, right? So you learn about the experience of the other when you see their art, because you understand them through their creativity. So if we can have more diverse, more inclusive, more community-based arts, we hopefully learn a bit more about each other, and also we meet each other.